Hey there, hope you're having a great day. So I'm just making a little video about how to deal with negative thoughts. I had a comment on one of my YouTube videos asking if I could do a video about this. So here we go. Um, there's many ways of working with negative thoughts. So I mean, if you just look online, you'll come up with a huge differing array of approaches. Some are very cognitive behavioral approaches. Some are more mindful approaches. Um, some are very um, kind of fierce, like really work on I'm not my thoughts. My thoughts aren't real. My thoughts aren't true. Um, there's a body of knowledge and research that goes into what really focused on our biases, on how we're wired for negativity, which is a bit of a survival mechanism. And I think that can be understood as as a very rational way to look at negative thoughts. That if if 80 to 95% of all of our thoughts are negative, in order to try and keep us safe and avoid danger and threat, then that gives a really clear understanding of why so many of us are so anxious and stressed. So you can accept that on some level and say that's just the human condition, that we have this kind of ancient protective mechanism which is wired to keep us safe, which puts us under immense stress and pressure, and a lot of the time keeps us very hypervigilant. But what I'm going to say here is that the majority of people with a history of trauma or adverse experience, um, or people who are just really highly sensitive, or they call themselves empaths or whatever, they might have a higher instance of negative thoughts. And maybe those thoughts are actually going to be quite aggressive too. They could be intrusive. They can come through and tell them what to do. They can be incredibly judgmental. And that can be directed towards you, or it can be directed towards others. And maybe that impedes your ability to have a connection with somebody else, or it makes you very fearful of other people, or it makes you feel like that no one can bear you or can handle you. So the role of negative thoughts is to create distance, and sometimes that distance is really useful. So I like to look at negative thoughts through a frame of curiosity. I like to understand them as well. They have a purpose. Maybe that purpose is not suiting you and not serving you, but the intention behind that stream of negative thoughts is really to keep you safe. So it's a very protective mechanism. Um, so trying to observe your negative thoughts with a bit of compassion and a bit of non-judgment. So this is the mindful approach. Um, will allow you to experience those with less charge. You'll be able to say, wow, as I sit here, I can notice that there's this commentary, and be aware, is it a commentary? Does it feel like that there's something sitting on your shoulder going, meh, 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 meh? Or does it feel like something's standing over you and yelling at you? Does it feel like there's something behind you whispering in your ear? Does it feel like there's something kind of holding your back? So our negative thoughts have many different presentations. Some can be frightening. Some can make you feel like this really small and scared child, where others can just make you feel really irritated. Some can make you feel like crying. Some can make you feel numb. So these are all very strong physiological responses to our negative thoughts. So how do we deal with them? So the way that I deal with them, and there's many different ways, is I work through which is called a parts model. So identifying that each of those thoughts is representative of a part, and a part might be like an age, like there was a young part, and maybe that part didn't get its needs met, so it creates this stream of negative thoughts to try and keep you safe because it wasn't safe when it was young. So again, this thought is trying to stop you from doing something. It's trying to keep you still. Don't move, or run even. So there's a method to these thoughts. They're not just random. And if we apply curiosity and non-judgment and a bit of compassion to them, we can start to understand why they're there. So there's other ways that you can deal with this as well. You can write. Writing is very good because it externalizes, it creates a bit of distance, and it gives expression. So sometimes these negative thoughts become really overpowering and really overwhelming because it feels like you're in a locked room with them, and they just go, 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 go. So when you are experiencing these persistent, intrusive, negative thoughts that feel like you just have to block your ears, this is a really good sign that you need to move. Like physically, you need to move, you need to distract as well. You can, and this is where the stepping in and saying, you know what, I see that these thoughts are happening, but I don't agree. There is a space for challenge here. So negative thoughts might come and go, you're stupid, you don't know what to do, da 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 da, this happened before, you know. But there is a space to step in and say, you know what, I don't agree. I appreciate that you're here trying to keep me safe, but I don't actually agree. I'm an adult and I can make my own decisions. And I encourage you to create a dialogue between these parts because this is really, really fruitful, and it's also very empowering. So that part of you that stands in and says, I challenge this, I don't agree. Really tune into what that feels like to bring that part out. And this is a really beautiful exercise because when we start with that experience of all of these intrusive thoughts, we feel really small, and maybe our posture changes. Maybe we feel really collapsed, or we feel like hiding. Maybe we don't want to look. Maybe we want to shield ourselves. We want to we and but then when we say, you know, I don't agree. I want you to notice what happens in your body now that you say, I don't agree. I'm an adult. I'm able to make my own decisions. Notice what happens in the body. Maybe your chest opens a little bit. Maybe your shoulders come back. Your posture will change. And this is a really important thing to notice as well with negative thoughts, because as we get condensed and collapsed down with those thoughts, some of the best ways to start to shift that is to intentionally and consciously adjust our posture. And this is why movement's really important. And sometimes these intrusive and if they're very aggressive and very energetic, like they're going at 1,000,000 miles a second, and it's just really like, oh God, just stop, please stop. Do some exercise. Really start to move the energy around. Do some push-ups, do riding a bike, do something. Just really start to move, because sometimes the space of negative thoughts moves into a space of rumination. And rumination is basically just being stuck in the cycle and trying to find a solution, but not finding one. But just going over and over and over and in increasing detail. And there'll be something in you saying, this is the way through it. We have to go all the way through. We need to understand it. And by understanding it to the nth degree, somehow we'll get free. And this is true sometimes. Sometimes we have to go right deep into that experience, that kind of chaos of thought, in order to come out of it. But sometimes you actually choose to go into that rumination as well, for many different reasons. On an ironic level, there's comfort in that space as well, because it fills you. It makes everything feel very meaningful. It makes you feel very connected to yourself. Even if you're connected through negativity, you still feel very whole. You know, I'm overly identified with my suffering, and so this creates a purpose and a meaning in its own right. And so a lot of the thoughts around challenging and starting to bring your self-awareness into the picture and saying, enough's enough, I'm not going to go down that road this time. it is about saying, well, okay, so there is some comfort in going into this space as well. Even if it's not apparent, there's some purpose that I get here. And maybe that's a way of avoiding. Maybe that's because you don't want to see something. Maybe that's because it's easier to be in that space of negative thoughts than it is to be in the present moment. And this is an interesting factor because a lot of the time people say that therapy is about the past, but therapy is really about helping you become more comfortable with the present. And so when we have a hard time being present to ourself, those negative thoughts are going to push us back into somewhere else. You're this, you're that, da da da, and it's going to be from a different time. Maybe it's future focused, maybe it's past focused. There's really a difficulty being in the present moment. And for a number of reasons. Sometimes it's because the present moment just feels it's too raw, because it feels empty. It feels like if we're in the present moment, then it can go anywhere. Whereas when we're in that space of being filled and kind of almost enmeshed with our negative thoughts, then there's not much else to think about. That threat, that danger feels really close. And for some reason, when those things are close and being felt on a very kind of visceral level, our bodies and our minds feel that's sometimes safer than having that uncertainty that it could happen. And so this is, I mean, some people call that the trauma paradox, that safety and stillness and silence is actually feels more unsafe than that experience of dysregulation and hurt and sadness and then that kind of chaos of that negative thought cycle. So I've gone into a different space that I intended to with this video, but I hope you found it interesting. I'll just try and summarize what I've covered. So the nature of the thoughts. When should you be worried about some negative thoughts? So if you're worried about negative thoughts that are persistent, maybe they're telling you to do things. Maybe they're stopping you from having any connection. When they're stopping you from leaving the house, say, when they're making you feel really paranoid. So this is a time to really seek help, and professional help as well, because that can be a sign that there might be something serious that needs to be handled well. So this is not something you just want to go and talk to your friends about, because they might not be able to help you with it, because it could be something deeper, more serious. And also some people won't understand that, because not everybody has that same experience. But if you have negative thoughts which are telling you what to do and they don't feel like they're you, they feel like they're someone else, they feel like they're coming from somewhere else, and that can be really scary. This is a time that you want to reach out for help. And also really tune into the body. I'm a very kind of somatic focused therapist, because I feel that this is a space that anchors you in the present moment. It's not here, it's really here. It's really the body. So experience what the body is saying in response to the thoughts. Notice how that interchanges, and also notice where it doesn't add up, because it won't add up all the time. Your thoughts will be telling you one thing, and this is an interesting experience. You might have these thought processes which are, oh, it's going to be really bad, or you can't do that, or you're not good enough, and da 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 da. And then when you tune into the body's, I'm okay. The body feels fine. You're like, oh, that's odd, because my thoughts are telling me that there's something really wrong happening here, but my body is saying I actually feel okay. And so in that moment, you want to say, hey, what's going on? I'm curious. What's wrong? You seem to be really concerned about something, but my body's not concerned. And then maybe that thought will be like, oh, and so you can comfort that thought and say, it's okay, you're safe. And this is a really nice space to kind of enter into as well, that you can start to become the carer for yourself. you can call that reparenting in many ways. You can say, wow, you're really worried, you're really concerned that something bad's going to happen. You know what? That's okay. I'm here for you and I'm going to help you through that. And this is why parts work is so effective, because you can step in and you can help and nourish and make safe and soothe that part of you which is screaming out for something, because our negative thoughts are always screaming out for something. So if you have any more questions about negative thoughts, I'd be happy to answer them. So leave them in the comments below. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.